on is to know, whoa, 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 all I want with just a touch of my burning hand. I send my astro zombies to you know what this land. You know what that prime directive is out there, YouTube land. Hey now, what's going on? First stream of the month, starting it off right. Been doing a lot of clips lately, just sort of getting all of our eggs in one basket. I guess that's what we've been doing. Patreones, keep your eyes peeled for the latest chapter that we've been reading in the Return of the Living Dead novelization. That's for Patreons and YouTube members alike. For Patreon YouTube casualties, we have a brand new episode of the Lodi Files coming at you live, not live, coming at you sooner than later as we continue on logging interviews, because that's what we do. So many fingers in the stew. All right, enough of this nonsense. Let's talk about corpses. One of my favorite subjects. Not really. Although I will say, I think one of the best punk rock songs of all time is Code Blue by TSOL, not just because it's morally bankrupt, but because it's just, I can't think of anything more punk rock than the proclamation in the chorus of the song. It's just so snotty and adolescent, and it's there for shock value. It's there to make you feel a certain way, catch a certain feeling. But we're not talking about those corpses or those kinds of acts tonight. We're talking about medicine involving corpses, and not just any kind of medicine. We're talking about European corpse medicine. Imagine for a minute that corpse medicine could promise better health through cannibalism. What a notion. Let us dive in, shall we? Kids, open your textbooks to Atlas Obscura. We're doing another article from them. I love Atlas Obscura. One of my favorite, sort of did you know, interesting factoid websites. This is written by Natalie Zarelli on October 31st, 2017. It's part of their 31 Days of Halloween. Take the fresh, unspotted cadaver of a red-headed man is how this begins. Talk about a sentence that's going to grab you right in and just sort of make you wonder at it all. In 17th century England, at the age of 23, Richard Baxter, writer of Protestant Christian works, was generally having a bad time. Every day he coughed, sometimes spitting blood. He had pains in his stomach. He suffered from daily flatulence, that means farts, and joint pains, and had bouts of scurvy, which is a nasty disease, by the way. Scurvy, we kind of think, shiver me timbers, scurvy, blah, 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 scurvy kids, yar, 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 that kind of thing. Scurvy is like when you don't have enough vitamin C in your system, your joints and everything that bonds you together, you basically start falling apart. You know what it is? It's your scar tissue can't form anymore. So all of the scars that you've had over the course of your life just start splitting open. It's kind of imagine a immortal power. The idea that you're immortal, but if something changes, then suddenly every wound you've ever suffered over your vast immortal life reverses itself in some sort of twisted Dorian Gray styled looking at the painting and melting into a puddle of oblivion. Well, this is the mortal version of that, whereas you lose out on the vitamin C and you can't produce any more scar tissue. Your scar tissue dissolves and disintegrates, and before you know it, that nasty cut you got from scraping fish at your dad's fishing dock or whatever you were doing in the 17th or 18th century or 16th century, that old wound opens up and you're in deep doo-doo. So that is so scurvy is a nasty sort of little thing, nasty little sitch right there. So having bouts of scurvy, and that's why they call them limeys, by the way. That's why it's kind of like a pejorative term. You call the British were called limeys because eventually they realized that they could drink lime juice to get the supplement that they needed of vitamin C in order to stave off scurvy. Yes, scurvy, dog. But that's the situation right there. That's the situation right there. Bouts of scurvy, and to top it all off, he often had an achy tooth. Achy teeth are bad too. That's frustrating right there. So achy teeth as well. He suffered from constant headaches, and much of the medicine of his day had no idea what to do with him, because people go watch The Nick on Cinemax. Well, maybe not. I don't know if you can. The Nick with what's his face? Oh my God, I'm having a senile moment. Dude from American Horror Story with a D, begins with a D. Fantastic actor. He's also in Sin City. Plays Dwight. Dylan McDermott is the name. Where they just don't know anything about like germs, and they're like operating on people into people's cavities with like bare hands. It's like so grotesque and scary. In any case, medicine had no idea what to do with this guy. We're talking about Richard Baxter here. So he did what anyone else in his time under the circumstances. He tried some more potent cures made out of human corpses. Yay! Baxter's ailments plagued him in the middle of an increase in medical cures in Europe, made from human body parts and blood from corpses as ingredients, now called corpse medicine. The use of dead bodies in medicine had been simmering in the medical community since around the year 25 in parts of the ancient Rome Empire. So you're talking about a practice that is nearly 2,000 years old, or at least a practice that's more closer to 2,000 years old than it is, say, 1,000 years old or 1,500 years old. Wow, since the year 25 in parts of the ancient Rome Empire, they've been using corpse medicine, with more organized and widespread use in Europe since the 1200s, lasting in dwindling practice into the 1890s. So as late as the 1890s, people were consuming corpse for medicinal purposes. Over the centuries, physicians experimented with their corpse-related remedies. Human remains became a cure for anything from gout to deep wounds. They just make this up. Oh yeah, you need to cure gout? Eat some intestines. Oh, you have some deep wounds? Down a couple of toenails and call me in the morning. I mean, the insanity of the notion. Richard Sugg writes of all this medical macabrely. Oh, I like that word. In his book, Mummies, Cannibals, and Vampires, some recipes for corpse medicine cures have survived over a very long time. Human body parts have been used in medicine around the world at various points in history, but Europe's corpse medicine heritage seems to have largely stemmed from ancient Rome. So, just real quick, just to add to that, an extension, at least maybe like if there's a branch, if there's a tree of medicine, right? Or pseudoscience medicine, whatever you want to call it. One branch is this corpse medicine. On another branch, you have, people are grinding up, the organs of, the mating organs of like tigers, for potency, a lot of potency stuff, a lot of Eastern medicine. They have like, these supplements, like ivory from tusks is used in stuff. You know what I mean? I had heard about Egyptian mummies being ground up into powder and that being a supplement. But not like what they're discussing here. In any case, all of this stuff, all of the European stuff, it stems from Rome. And as Rome was the empire that covered most, if not all, of Europe 2,000 years ago, right? So I guess that kind of makes sense. Sugg writes that in ancient Rome, the equivalent of medical professionals at the time advised drinking blood straight from a freshly perished gladiator. This is straight up vampirism. We wonder how did people come up with vampires? I mean, look no further. and similar practices continued through the Middle Ages. When Baxter suffered a fit of bleeding, he was cured by applying moss that had been growing on a human skull. So it's like take some moss take some moss that was grown on a human skull, place it on the area, apply to the area, and voila, you're all good. To promote hair growth for anyone with a receding hairline. I better listen to this one because my hairline is most certainly receding. Liquor of hair would help hair grow, while powdered hair taken orally was thought to help cure jaundice. We hear this word. I hear this word often. That's when you look yellow, but I don't know why. Let's look it up real quick. A medical condition with yellowing of the skin or whites of the eyes arising from excess of pigment bilirubin, and typically caused by obstruction of the bile duct, by liver disease, or by excessive breakdown of the red blood cells. Wow. That's some weird, wacky, wild stuff right there. For anyone developing, so basically the modus operandi is, oh, you're losing your hair? Eat some hair. Like whatever it is. For anyone developing cataracts in old age, human excrement could be ground into a powder. Hey, let's take some human excrement, ground it into a powder, and rub it in our eyeballs, right, Sug? After which you would blow it into the eye. I'm sure that didn't cause any pink eye. Look at this dude. Look at his eyes. He's not having it, man. He's not having a good time. Look at those pudgy sausage fingers. This is a doctor. This is Paracelsus. The famoso doctor. Yeah, right. When people ate ground up body parts and body fluids, they believed that they were using powerful bodily forces to cure another body system issue. So that's ultimately, it's like everything that you hear about like vampirism, like you need to consume. Well, they say, a vampire consumes blood because they don't have enough, they have a vitamin D deficiency or whatever. I mean, there's a thousand ways to try and come up with some sort of pseudo-scientific reason why a supernatural creature does what it does. But ultimately, all of these things are sort of vampiric in nature, kind of similar to how, what's her name? Bathory, the countess who used the blood of virgins to as a fountain of youth, because it made her skin look all nice. So Paracelsus was a 16th century Swiss physician with fat sausage fingers and a father of toxicology, believed that to cure an ailment, you needed to treat it with something similar. And many of the corpse medicine using doctors followed this lead. To prevent tooth decay, someone could wear a tooth taken from a corpse and wear it around his or her neck, or touch the corpse's tooth to one's own. So it's that simple. Sometimes, I mean, this is just crazy. This is literally craziness. It's funny, like, I mean, this, when I think about quackery, here's quackery for you. Sometimes, according to Sugg, the belief that like cures like was in effect, but at other times the cure. So it's like if you get stabbed by a knife, if you just rub a knife on the wound, you'll be good as new. Take some bullets and rub them over bullet holes. Like cures like was in effect, but at other times the cure seems to have little to do with which body part it came from, and everything to do with the mystical nature of dead bodies. Woo! Kings and commoners alike were interested in this whole mysterious court medicine business, and King Charles II of England was apparently very fond of using human skull in a concoction known as King's Drops. The recipe was simple. Take a human skull and powder it into a fine dust. Add alcohol to form an extract and drink it down. So, when you get like Madagascar vanilla beans or whatever, they come in an alcoholic solution because alcohol has the ability to extract the essence of the flavor, the smell of something. That's how they make perfumes, you name it. That's how they do it. So they're basically extracting the essence of a skull using, or you could just call it skull shots, right? Angus McWhorter says, "What about excrement? Question mark. Gigi Allen would have had a ball." You're so right. He would have loved that. He would have absolutely loved it. He found the cure for he would have been immortal. He would have solved the problem, right? He would have been just walking the earth for 1,000 years, just sampling his excrement and whatnot. What's going on, Rumorg? They do call us walking corpses, unholy living dead. So on his deathbed, Sugg writes that Charles II's doctors frantically used these drops along with a barrage of herbal enemas and treatments to no avail. So as he was dying on his deathbed, this dude, whether it was the doctors doing it or Charles himself, was just torturing himself by getting herbal, solutions shoved up his, butt because, as an enema, he's basically just taking it up the coast in order to get like, to extract it. Although apparently that is like a really good way. That's a really good way to, again, if you are into imbibing drugs, like the cannabis variety, you can brew cannabis into a tea, put it in a turkey baster, stick it up where the sun don't shine, and the cavity walls of your inner rectum the THC goes right into your bloodstream and you will be high as a kite. It's a quite an effective way to soak in drugs. And if that is your modus operandi, then more power to you. Wonderful. In any case, poor Charles is taking these herbal enemas. I mean, here's the thing. Like, it's like, do you really want to be doing any like sort of physicality like that on your deathbed? It's like you're on your deathbed. You're like not feeling very well. You got to get up. You got to bend over. They got to shove the tube up there and, squirt in all sorts of stuff to get it, to get it going. It's like, not like, what do you want that for? Dude, just, lie down and be comfortable. You know what I mean? Like, instead of like going to all this trouble, when it's kind of futile, maybe, I don't know. It sounds like they were doing it in a last ditch effort to save him. But it just sounds like disturbing a man on his deathbed with, something that requires, a sense of physicality to get to maneuver the procedure. And it just seems like, what's the point? I don't know. I mean, if he was fully, if he had stood a chance of surviving, I'd say, hey, open up, man. Take 2, 3, 4 enemas daily. Make it happen. But it's like, if you're on your deathbed, what's the point? Like, why disturb them? And then they were also doing the drops too. The drops lived on, and they were sold in shops in London through the 1700s for what 18th century physicians called nervous complaints. They just made stuff up. And then this is literally how you get all those snake oils, right? But what's funny? You don't hear any snake oil enemas, right? Like, I feel like in the 1800s, it just went out of fashion. Like, it was not, even though it's the most effective way to take in a solution. I mean, that's what a suppository is. You ever see in Trainspotting, he has the heroin suppositories. If you've ever taken a suppository, I've had to do suppositories in the past, and what they do is they just dissolve. You stick them up there, they dissolve, and whew, right as rain. If you have trouble swallowing pills, suppositum. I don't know if oral medicine will work. It's like it's going from ass to mouth. It's not ass to mouth, it's mouth to ass. Sorry, I cracked myself up. It's so ridiculous. That's why I love reading these articles, because you just like find so many ways to like riff on them and stuff. But they just would make this stuff up. Snake oil enemas. That's something I want to see. If there's an example, I want to read about it. I'm very curious to know how that worked. In some cases, physicians added exotic chocolate or other herbs into the mix. But the skull was key to curing epilepsy, various bouts of bleeding, and was believed that it could, at the last moments of one's life, prevent death. Okay, so this is why our friend Charles II was doing the drops and the enemas to no avail, because he thought legitimately it was going to prevent death. I would say that is pretty understandable, all things considered. Um, I wonder if Glenn Danzig knows about the skull medicine, if he's down with it. It sounds like something Glenn would be into. Yeah, skulls. That's right. I just take a couple of these drops. I put them in my eyeballs, and everything's okay. If you're reading this in gross fascination, you might be asking, where did they get the bodies? According to Sugg, all over the gruesome place. Mummies were sometimes, so there you go. That's what I was talking about. The mummies were sometimes looted and shipped from Egypt. But since those were in short supply, a local made mummified body would do the trick. So they're mummifying people locally just to like get in on this, like, get in on the whatchamacallit, on the trade. Often the specific social role of a person in life dictated what their body was used, usually an executed criminal or one of the poor. In the UK, the Irish, who were I can't say that word, maligned. I know what it is. I just can't say it. Maligned and colorized by England were a possible common source. Sugg writes that a 17th century physician named John Pommet of England noted that a specific moss found on skulls imported to England and Germany was from Ireland. These skulls, which were crushed into a fine powder, were used in wounds to stop bleeding and as a salve. Though Sugg points out that any starch or powder would generally stop the bleeding. So maybe if you grind up the skull, it's kind of like a starchy substance or whatever. There you go. There's a painting of this dude, corpse medicine practitioner John Tradescant the Younger, with a moss-covered skull. How about them apples? So there you go. He's got a skull right up in that piece right there. What else? Corpses were also taken from wars and criminals and criminal executions. So I guess after a bloody battle is fought, there are all sorts of trickle down. Would you call this a trickle down economy? Right? It's a trickle down economy. The big war is fought, everybody dies, whoever then you get the ghouls. And what I mean by a ghoul is someone who, like, sort of desecrates a dead body or a dead grave or whatever. And there's like, picking up skulls, collecting body parts. Why? They got to chop them up, turn them into medicine. Dissection and corpse medicine became somewhat socially intertwined, with bodies dug straight from the ground. While some doctors may have drawn the line at preying on actual marked graves dug by families of deceased rather than those of unclaimed bodies, bones and skulls were clearly in considerable demand around this time, and not everyone had the luck to live so close to an anonymous burial mound, insinuating that people were catch as catch can when it came to skulls and bodies. If your relative passed away and got buried in a thing, and it's like, yo, I need some money, gotta make that bread. And I don't mean make that bread like make that money. I mean like literally bake some bread, like make that bread, not bread made from skull dust, because we already did that episode. Like, you're going to go down and you're going to rob that grave. As a matter of fact, that would be a great idea for a screenplay. I love it already. If the mummy supply from abroad was lacking, it was an easy fix to prepare one from scratch. One recipe promoted by German physician Johann Schroeder in his 17th century medical tome, Pharmacopoeia Medico-Chymica, is blatant about the uses of certain bodies over others in mummy making. So here is one of those things. Now, I believe it said it was a German physician, but instead of reading it in a German accent, I'm going to do it in an English one because I can't. Well, maybe I can do German. Let me try. Take the fresh, unspotted cadaver of a red-headed man. No, I can't do it. I can't do it. Take the fresh, unspotted cadaver of a red-headed man, because in them the blood is thinner and the flesh hence more excellent, aged about 24, who has been executed and died a violent death. Let the corpse lie one day and night in the sun and the moon, but the weather must be good. Cut the flesh into pieces and sprinkle it with a myrrh and just a little aloe. Then soak in spirits of wine for several days. Hang it up for 6 to 10 hours. Soak it again in spirits of wine, and then let the pieces dry in dry air in a shady spot. Thus, they will be similar to smoked meat and will not stink. So, I mean, like this is this sounds like a recipe for preparing like like some sort of animal. You know what I mean? So, I mean, people are being butchered after they die and prepared in a culinary sort of way for medicinal medicine. I agree, Biz. Medical practices back then were scary as hell. Whether doctors had bona fide Egyptian mummy or a locally sourced version on hand, they made use of every piece for their practice. Every single piece. So every single piece, the dong, like everything got grounded up. Tushy, titties, all of it. Lips, asshole, all of it. All of it got grounded up. All of it went down the gullet. Some corpse medicine treatments seemed to have nothing to do with the ailments. Yeah, that's fingernails, skull, mistletoe, and a peony root were believed to help cure epilepsy. Though you could always try dried human heart. Of course, try dried human heart. Yeah, obviously. Or Sug writes, if you want to get fancier with your cures. Now, if you want to get fancier with your cures, you could infuse water with lily, lavender, malmsey, and 3 pounds of human brain. Don't you love how that sounds? Like, imagine that was a terrible Southern accent, but imagine like, who's that racist Southern lady who got in trouble with all the butter? She always cooks with the butter. I forget her name. Paula Deen. Let's imagine Paula Deen, but she's practicing medicine in the 1800s. And she's, just doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And okay, first what we're going to do is going to take a pound of butter. We're just going to lay it out flat. Then we're going to take a little bit of lily and lavender and malmsey and 3 pounds of your human brain. Of course, that's the gray matter. You don't want to use the medulla oblongata now. The whole corpse could be dried and sold as one piece. So then you got like wholesale corpse. It's like, hey, just like, it's just straight up dried corpse. It's literally corpse grinding. Like, so it's like, hey, just cut a little bit off of the big block, right? The whole corpse could be dried and sold as one piece, which Schroeder recommended to other doctors, lest they be cheated with subpar materials. Rue likes that. Fancy. Fancier. The laugh of hers is pure evil. Yeah. She's an evil lady. And you know what they say. She makes lots of sweet treats, and sweet treats are sticky. And you know what else is sticky, guys? Stickers. But I want to tell you something. We're not just doing the normal old sticky stickers. I got a package the other day. Do you see this? You see this package I got? What's in the box, Jeff? Jeff, what's in the box? Jeff, what is in the box? Look at this. What's in the box, Jeff? Jeff, what's in the box? Jeff, what's in the box? Jeff, what's in the box? What's up, Walter White? How you doing? We're talking about what's in my box. What's in my box? I'm going to tell you. We got to open it. We got to open it up. Oh, yeah, baby. You like that? Now that's a knife right there. Okay, let's open this up. Just slicing this sucker open. Ooh. Just like a fresh human corpse. Oh, my goodness. Oh. Well, no wonder it was so sticky. I was wondering what was in here. Look what we got from Riot Stickers. Riotstickers.com. Whoo! Yo, check out my riot stickers from riotstickers.com. Dude, the stickers are riotatious, man. Look at these things. They came out so nicely. So we actually have a sticker to show you. We're running a promotion with riotstickers.com. I don't know if these are the exact size. I don't know if this is 3 inches. This looks like 2 inches by 3 inches. So this is a 2 by 3 incher. So the stickers that we're doing a promotion for are actually, I believe, bigger than this. Of course, Rue, you're going to get one. Rue, just send me your text me or send me your address, and I will send you a few Frumess stickers. Of course, Rue. Just get me your info, and I'll send some over for you. Okay. Friggin' supporter like this, dude. I'm gonna send him. I'll send you a nice little care package with some stickers in it. So these are beautiful, man. They came out. They're glossy. They got a nice glossy finish. I love them. This is my new design. If you could see, that's my face there in the moon. Remember how we were doing the moon face? I gotta fix my my logo here. See that? Changed it up. And if you'll notice whose handwriting that is, that's Glenn Danzig's handwriting. I'm really liking my new logo. So this is the new logo. You know what I should have done, and I didn't think to? I should have put the YouTube channel down below, but I didn't think to do that. That's okay. It's still really cool. I'm so grateful to riotstickers.com. What a fantastic sponsor. So let me tell you about the promotion that we're doing with riotstickers.com. I've gone crazy. I got stickers coming out of my wazoo. What we're doing is you can get 50 3-inch by 3-inch stickers. Look at these puppies. You see that? You hear that? Fresh bills, fresh clean bills. You can get 50 stickers for $29.50. Normally that's $59. $59. And again, look at the quality. See how shiny this is? Do you see the shine, the gloss, the veneer? I mean, this is some nice vinyl stickerage. So normally that would cost you $59. But when you use the promo code Frumess and the special link that's down in the description here, use the special link down in the description here, you're going to get these for $29.50. And they're bigger than this one. This is I'm positive this is 3 inches right here. So it's this by this long. So it's really more like that's your total sticker. That's what your sticker is going to look like. That's the real estate you're going to have. This is the real estate you're going to be working with, I believe, riotstickers.com. Okay. Which makes sense because that's what the first order of stickers that I did with riotstickers.com. That was the size of them. So check out riotstickers.com. Link down in the description. Use the promo code Frumess and let's sing the fancy song.
Posters and promo cards, there's nothing we can't print for you. From stage backdrops to bass drum heads, we can print on shirts, we can print on hats, we can print on pants. Cheap prices and high quality, quick turnaround times and free shipping. We also offer free artwork support, great customer service, and so much more. We are the bomb. Riotstickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. Riotstickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. Riotstickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb.
Riotstickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. Wow, I love those. Big shout out to Sharpie Riot for the stickers. They're gorgeous. They're gorgeous. Thank you again. So glad to have them. I'm going to be slapping those every which way that I can. So anyway, back to our regularly scheduled. What's up, JD? How you doing? JD's throwing horns. Biz says, good to know corpse medicine is a dead practice. Whoa, zinger. That's a zinger right there. All right, let's get back at it, guys. Let's finish this. So check this out. This is a 17th century drawing, a depiction of mummies in their sarcophagi. I have actually been to Egypt and I have been inside pyramids. but that's a story for another day. When Rome, Biz says, when in Rome, do not always do as the Romans do. Woo-hoo! Ain't it the truth? Ain't it the truth? But I mean, look, this is all the rage. Notice what they call, how they spell mommies. It's M-O-M-I-E-S, mommies, moomies. Oh, I guess it's kind of like the French way of saying it. Even the less preservable parts of the body were used. An ointment of human fat and cinnabar was said to cure patients of various ailments, including hydrophobia, now commonly known as rabies. So they thought hydrophobia was rabies. I mean, this is how crazy, like, people thought, like, you know, we always complain about today's world, and you should complain about today's world. Just because you have it better than other people doesn't mean you shouldn't complain about your circumstances. That's not like a cue to say, then, you know, shut the F up. You should be grateful for what you have. While it's good to have some gratitude, you should still stand up for, you know, having it better. Like, we should all have better, you know what I mean? In that kind of way. However, it is also good to look at the history as a reference, to realize, to contextualize our grievances and understand that, like, look, at least we didn't live in an age where they mistaked rabies for hydrophobia, or they were consuming, you know, bodies for medicinal reasons. So, I mean, like, you know, like, again, it's all, you know, it's grass is always greener on the other side. To prepare human fat for use in this ointment, 18th century French pharmacist Comte Antoine Francois de Fourcroy called for cutting the fat into pieces with membranes and vessels separated. I mean, this is butchery, man. In his book, Elements of Chemistry and Natural History, in which he cites physicians using human fat in cures around Europe. After the fat was washed in water and allowed to melt, it was poured into a glazed earthen vessel to solidify. So you're like rendering and re-rendering fat. Fourcroy adds helpfully that 28 ounces of human fat lends about 20 ounces of oil. So you can distill 28 ounces of human fat into 20 ounces of your oil. Medical benefits surrounding corpse medicine were sometimes, to put it mildly, at odds with other cultural or religious beliefs during corpse medicine's popularity. Sugg points out that 17th century Europeans decried cannibalism and used accusations of cannibalism against colonized people as justification for violence. So, you know, England and other countries, France and Spain, they're off out there colonizing the world, these imperial nations, and using practices of cannibalism, either real or imaginary, as a means for needing to, and I say this in quotes, civilize people that they, and putting this again in quotes, considered to be savages with their savage ways. And yet back home, it's just another example in human history of people, excuse me, my throat. It's another example in human history of people claiming one thing. Like, look at all the medieval churches. They were like, you know, they preached all these, you know, values that were aligned with, you know, Christianity. And then they were going off and, like, you know, burning witches and seeing if people float, and, you know, going into the Middle East and, you know, trying to take back Jerusalem and, like, slaughtering thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions in the name of Christ, and then getting it all prayed away so that they could get into heaven. Like, just like all sorts of stuff like that. You know, I mean, there's always some sort of hypocrisy. And here's a perfect example of that hypocrisy in the form of cannibalism. We're gonna colonize you because you've practiced this in the past, and while our cannibalism is justified because we do it for our so perceived medicine. What's up, Amy? Amy's in the chat throwing horns and skulls. We're talking about cannibalism as a medical practice in 17th century Europe. Humans are able to, and in fact do all the time, carry these contradictory ideas, explains Zoe Crossland, an archaeologist and associate professor of anthropology at Columbia University. Even Protestant Christians who decried the cannibalism implied by the Catholic Eucharist. All right, so, and again, I am not Christian. I don't want to offend any Christians out there, and I want to treat your rituals with the utmost respect, even if they are not my own. My understanding is that the Eucharist and the idea behind mass, Catholic mass or mass in general, and again, anybody out there, please correct me, because I again don't know and want to come from a place of respect. Truthfully, the idea is you are the wine and the wafer that you consume undergoes a process called transubstantiation, right? And transubstantiation is this essentially this process that there's no explanation. One might consider it to be supernatural, magical, some sort of thing, or a process that we don't understand that the God does, right? Something like that. And transforms it into the actual blood and actual flesh of Christ. And then you are to consume it in this act. You are in body. It says, eat, drink of my blood and eat of my flesh, something like that. And the Catholic Eucharist, and to the point where, like, you're supposed to spit the wine out, right? Or something, like all that stuff that they would spit out, or all the unused stuff, had to be burned in a special, like, it would all go down a sink, and then they would take out a piece of pipe in the sink that caught all the bits of debris, and then that would have to get burned, consecrated in not consecrated is not the right word, had to be ceremonially burned because it was pieces of God as understood by Christians, as far as I understand. And anybody who wants to correct me, I don't know. I'm not claiming to know here. I find it fascinating though. So what they're saying is even Protestant Christians who decried the cannibalism implied by the Catholic Eucharist, which was a huge debate in the 1600s, could easily separate their religious beliefs from their desires for the best cures around. So people would compartmentalize that. I'm going to look up the actual word of Eucharist. Yeah. Okay. So the Eucharist is the Christian service, ceremony, or sacrament commemorating the Last Supper, in which bread and wine are consecrated and consumed. However, and it says the bread and the wine are referred to as the body and the blood of Christ, though many theological controversy has focused on how substantially or symbolically that this is to be interpreted. So some theologians will say it's supposed to be symbolic and it's not literal, while others would say, no, you are literally consuming the body and the blood of Christ. The service of worship is also called the Holy Communion, or chiefly in Protestant tradition, the Lord's Supper or Mass, and then here you go. Transubstantiation is right here. That's that word we were talking about. I wonder if it'll let me look up. No, it's not going to let me look up that word. But transubstantiation is that process where it changes. It turns into something else. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Crossland notes that while many relationships between religion and medicine may have existed in Taylor's time, medical cannibalism and its relationship to his religion may not have been clear, especially if the medicine didn't come directly from his Christian community's dogma. He may not have even articulated or seen this as contradictory as we do now, she says. So here's a dude, they're dissecting. This is a medical class. That's what you did. Took a cadaver, opened him up. Hey, look, these are the intestines. Here's the rib cage, spleen, liver, lungs, whatever else. This is all the stuff. It's how you learned about bodies. It's what they were doing. 16th century, 15th century. You know how we have the term astronaut, which is like an explorer of space. They should have one like cadavernaut, like people that were like opening up human beings and like exploring the frontier of the human body for the first time in a scientific way, right? Isn't that kind of trippy to think about? In Europe, the autopsy was growing in popularity as a way to learn about the body, but medical dissection was often seen as punishment to the dead and reserved for those considered undesirable in society. Some of the hype around corpse medicine grew from a mix of folk beliefs and medieval practices. Blood was believed to be such a powerful substance that it was collected at the gallows straight from the recently executed. The practice of corpse medicine waned over time, but it lasted in small bursts for centuries after its heyday. Sometimes and I'm sure in far off remote places where this stuff is sort of passed down through like families and stuff, you know, whatever, like passed down in like small communities that maybe some of these traditions might still survive even to this day. Maybe, who knows? Sometimes any substance that touched or came from a dead body was seen as potentially healing, even into the 19th century in the UK. An 1893 collection of folk cures explains that coffin water is considered good for warts just because it was water that was soaking in a coffin. And the water with which a corpse has been washed had been recently given to a man in Glasgow as a remedy for fits. So a fit, a fit, like a misfit. No, like a fit. Let's see what a fit said. Fits are a sudden uncontrollable outbreak of intense emotion, laughter, coughing, or other activity. So it's an uncontrollable outbreak of intense emotion. I know what a fit is, but if you ask me to define it, like that's not easy to do. And so a guy is having fits, these uncontrollable bursts of emotions. And they're like, hey, man, here, have some water that was used to wash a corpse. That'll cure your fit. Crazy. Angus McHorder says, thankfully, when I took communion in the esophageal church as a kid, it was only bread, a real wine, which I now consider myself a pagan. Haha. So, yeah, man. I mean, that's cool. I kind of consider myself to be pagan as well. I say on my on here all the time about how I'm a Jew, and I am. You never stop being a Jew. If you're born a Jew, you go through the circumcision, all that, you get bar mitzvah, you're a Jew. You're a Jew to the day you die. But I'm considering myself to be much more than just a Jew. And I guess I'm more pagan than anything else. I consider myself to be. I identify in that sort of way as well. I don't know, like a humanist, naturist. I believe in all that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? So yeah, man. So Biz, it's not. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of people like us out there, you know, who are just into that. I believe in nature, man. You know, take it for what it means. You know, I believe. Well, we went down a whole rabbit hole last week. Go look at that to see what I believe. I'm not gonna go through all that again, but I believe in a lot of stuff. The practice of corpse medicine waned over time, but it lasted in small. All right, we already read that part. Richard Baxter relied on the most current medical knowledge of his day to alleviate his pains, but so do we. While we might cringe at these corpse medicine cures, medical practitioners in the US and the UK still involve human body parts, including organ donation, engineering fat cells for medicine, corpse donated dental grafts, and human blood. We don't necessarily take it orally. This, you know, I got to tell you, the writer really sort of nails it home here by bringing it back around, saying that here we've just spent all this time sort of like gawking and guffawing at these crazy practices, when in reality we are still consuming human body parts, but we do it with science, with proven science. You know, in particular, organ donation. We're still putting body parts into other body parts, and it gives life. Engineering fat cells, stem cell research, right? We're consuming, bodies in order to, however stem cell stuff works in a variety of ways, stem cell therapies and stuff, right? It's just interesting. It's just interesting how it's still going on. Corpse donated dental grafts and human blood. Again, you're giving blood and you're consuming blood, except we're doing it in the right. We're using our correct blood type, so it doesn't hurt us. We're not leaking our blood out because we consider it to be bad blood. We're taking the blood out because we want to put it in someone else who has the same blood type as us, so that they can have more blood. Necessarily take it orally, but we do use blood in all sorts of ways, with inoculations and blood transfusions among them. Yeah, dude. Crossland says, pointing out that some similarities to how people thought of those cures of old. We get it from the living, not from the dead, but we don't view that as cannibalistic. We see that as part of the medical world. I really want to hand it to the writer here for just sort of taking it home with that. It's like meant to be like a gawky, like freak article, like, oh, look at these people from a long time ago used to do those. Natalie did a great job. Natalie Zarelli for Atlas Obscura. JD says Jewish people are really smart. Yes, they are. I mean, that's a blanket statement. There are many who, it's just like anybody else. We have our smarties and we have our dummies, but you will see a high percentage of not Nobel Prize winners are Jewish, something like that. That again is a gross generalization that I shouldn't make. I don't think. I'm not sure how that stuff works. I'm just going to shut up. Not going to talk about it. Not going to talk about that. Right. Semantics. Exactly. Okay. So there's that. And then one last thing before we roll out of here. We're going to skim this one. This is from the Smithsonian, and it's similar to what we were just going through. We like to be thorough here. Let's go through this one over here. Obadiah. So this is the gruesome history of eating corpses as medicine. The question was not, should you eat human flesh, says one historian, but what sort of flesh should you eat? And is it really long? I'm not going to read through it. The last line of a 17th century poem by John Donne prompted Louise Noble's quests. Woman, the line read, are not only sweetness and wit, but mummy possessed. What? Oh my Lord. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Noble's new book, Medical Cannibalism in Early Modern English Literature and Culture, and another by Richard. So this is also takes from Richard Sugg, who we were just reading about from that book, reveals that for several hundred years, it peaked in 16th and 17th centuries, where many Europeans, including royalty, priests, and scientists, routinely ingested remains containing human bones, blood, fat as medicine for everything from headaches to epilepsy, but consuming, like orally consuming. Blah, 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 blah. Mummies stolen from Egyptian tombs, right? The question was not, should you eat human flesh, but what sort of flesh you eat, my Lord. The answer at first was Egyptian mummy, which was crumbled into, oh my God, tinctures to staunch internal bleeding. But other parts of the body soon followed. Blood was procured as fresh as possible in a pre-age of refrigeration. Mark, you got to turn on your notifications, buddy. That will solve the problem. That will solve the problem. I'm just skimming this, guys. I'm not looking to read this whole thing. However, consuming human remains fit with the leading medical theories of the day. It emerged from homeopathic ideas. Homeopathic, that was the word I meant to use in the previous one. Homeopathic ideas, says Noble. It's like cures like. Right. Another reason human remains were considered potent was because they were thought to consider the spirit of the body from which they were taken. Right. So spirit comes into play too. Spirit was considered a very real part of physiology. Linking the body and the soul. In this context, blood was especially powerful. They thought that the blood carried the soul, and it did so in the form of vaporous spirits. Woo! Vaporous spirits. Even at corpse medicine's peak, two groups were demonized. You know what it sounds like? It sounds like Natalie wrote her article from this article. That's what it sounds like to me. She rewrote it, but all the content is the same. All the content. There's no point. There's no point. It's just redundant. It's just redundant. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast discussing corpse medicine. JD says, hey, Frumess, can you investigate the Anasazi cannibals from the Southwest U.S.? There's a huge controversy for that. Yeah, I'll check it out. I'm not going to do it now, but I'll definitely check it out. Glad you like the stickers. I have more, like I said. Check out ridestickers.com for some stickers. We are the bomb. Just to let you know, if you didn't see my post today, Mr. Jim of the Misfits from the Static Age era is coming on the show next week. He's going to be on Tuesday. I know Jim. I've known Jim for 12 years now. Jim and I go back a long ways. Super nice guy. First guy I ever interviewed in my life. It was the first interview I ever did was Mr. Jim. And you know, I've interviewed, I want to say that I've interviewed over 100 people now, which may not seem like a lot, but you know, it's a substantial number, I think. And thank you, JD. Great suggestion. So I'm very excited to have Mr. Jim on the show. And it's a first because we've never actually had a member of the Misfits on this channel. We've had members of Sam Hain. We've had members of Danzig. We've never had a member of the actual band, the Misfits. I did do a show with Bobby Steele. Bobby Steele and Diana Steele are supposed to come on at some point and do an episode of Pizza Punk, but we never can seem to line that up. But that will happen at some point in the future as well. But I'm very excited. We're just going to do a real heavy episode on the Static Age. So if you're down with Static Age Misfits, you're going to love it. That's going to be on a Tuesday. That's next Tuesday. I think it's February 8th or February 9th, whatever it is. It's a week from now, a week from today. All right. So you have a week to get you. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel, turn on notifications, get that all ready. Like I said, I have a brand new episode of the Lodi Files for anybody who's a YouTube casualty on the channel. That's coming up real soon. And if you've been following along, we have been reading Return of the Living Dead. Got a frog in my throat. We've been reading along to the Return of the Living Dead novelization with a little bit of commentary along the way. And that's been really fun. The book is very different from the movie. And that the first episode of that will be premiering. That will be just dropping. We're about a month in. So like every week, one chapter will drop as I read a new chapter. So if you want to get the latest chapters, you got to wait at least a month before you can read to the next chapter. So if you don't feel like waiting, you can sign up, join the YouTube casualties either on YouTube or on Patreon. We have a Patreon as well. Tune in tomorrow night. We're doing a beef show. We're talking about Corey Taylor from Slipknot and Machine Gun Kelly, two guys that I know zero about, which is kind of why I wanted to do the show, because I'm completely unbiased in my judgment. It's going to be Judge Jeffrey tomorrow night. That's what I'm going to call myself, where we weigh in and decide who is right in the matter of the beef. How about that? That's what we're going to be doing. I feel pretty good about that. So make sure you check that out. So peace, hair grease, and most importantly, what is Patreon? Find out now. Do you want this to keep going, you guys? Do you want this to keep going? Do you want us to keep going? You gotta get the Patreon. Hey guys, what's going on? It's Jeff. So I've decided to make a Patreon. What is Patreon? I don't know how to define a Patreon. Let me look it up. Patreon is a membership platform that makes it very easy for creators to get paid for the things that they're already creating. I want to do it full time. I want this to be my full-time job. in my efforts to make that happen, I've set up this platform. Is it going to work? Is it going to be successful? I don't know, but I would rather try and crash and burn than not try at all. The goal is to create enough passive revenue so that I can continue to do this full-time, uninterrupted. Why? Because I love to do this. I love creating content. I love making videos. I love shooting films. I love doing podcasts. In case you couldn't tell, I love to talk and I never shut the fuck up. So right now I've kept the Patreon incredibly simple. There's 2 tiers, and that may change in the future. The Murdergram is a simple way to extend support for all of the hours and hours of free content on the channel for nothing more than $1. 38 cents goes to Patreon. What's $1.38, eh? It's less than a cup of coffee, but it's a great way that you can show support for very little effort. When you divide that $1.38 by the hours and hours and hours of time spent listening to this endless drivel of content, the dollar cost average works out. Next up is the YouTube casualty for $6.66. The YouTube casualty is loaded to the gills. Enjoy the archive ad-free, as well as ad-free early access to special docu-style podcast videos, music reaction commentaries, and the like, a month before they drop on YouTube, loaded with ads, I might add. You're also going to get exclusive content and behind-the-scenes content that is not available on YouTube or anywhere else. So you get to peek behind the veil. And believe me, there's a couple of choice pieces. Most of all, more than anything, whether you join the Patreon or not, I just want to thank each and every one of you that comes to the channel, that watches all the shows, that leaves comments, that participates, that subscribes. That's really the most important thing. This is just trying to find a way to earn a living as an artist. And with that, thank you for my TED Talk. Join the Patreon, because we need you!
66 cents.